I don't talk about credit cards a lot. Well, in fact, almost never, except that one time where I mentioned how I was a cashback slave. For me personally, I'm a cashback slave at this point. The main reason is because I just don't travel as much and I like cash. Enough said. But the main reason why is that I feel that there are enough gurus out there that share about this piece of personal finance sharing. What made me considering it is that they all seem to talk about miles a lot and hence they don't talk about cashback a lot. I'm not sure why, but I feel it is underrated or maybe it is too straightforward that it is just less exciting. Who knows? Since this is my very first video talking about it, I would like to talk about my journey navigating it, my choices and thinking process that led me to the decisions that I made. Bear in mind that this is a journey that spans for years already, so I couldn't really recall exactly, but I hope at the very least this can get you started to think more about the cashback cards, even though they don't really have as many variations as compared to the miles one. But trust me, it's worth considering. Fun fact though, I do keep a written journal about my credit cards journey because so far I had done a revamp 3 times to my credit cards lineup and I just had to record it somewhere so that I know why I chose them and why I decided to change. Part of the reason is because as your life grows with you and evolves, your needs may change too. And hence the cards that you use may change too. With that, grab a drink, sit back, I'm Daddy, and this is That Money Compass. Considering I care about cashback a lot, naturally the cards that I have are all cashback cards. When will I start using miles? I don't know yet, but I may in the future. However, before I start talking about cards, let me get this out first. If or when you are using credit cards or want to use credit cards, always remember this. You don't adapt your spending habit to the cards. They are just tools. What does it mean? If a card requires you to spend a minimum of $800, for example, while your monthly expenses are about $400, you don't increase your expenses just to match it to get the offered benefits. Always remember this. If you are not rich and especially saving up, your aim is to reduce spending, not adding spending. So increasing a $400 to match the $800 minimum spending requirement is a no-no. And whenever the answer is a no, that means the card is not suitable for you. This is the general guideline so that you don't succumb to your own emotions. Alright, with that said, allow me to share with you my story here. But bear in mind that it may not be as precise because the way I wrote it down on my journal is kind of like a one-pointer kind of thing. So yeah, I started off pretty conservative. What that means is that I just wanted anything that could yield me the highest cashback possible. However, there's also another factor that I had to consider, which is the fact that I wouldn't let myself spend more than my average spending. So this second factor actually ruled out quite a number of cards out there that required high minimum spending. In order to know your exact average spending number, that also means you need to track your cash flow down to the T. So yes, I do record every single transaction, be it input or output, on my Excel sheet. And yes, I have updated my tracker multiple times by this point, and even trying out different platforms like using Notion and back to the Excel sheet. In fact, I still like that customization of formulas, and so far I feel Excel sheet still does it best. But one day I may build my own software to track this, considering that will meet my requirement best. Another project for another day. Anyway, back to the topic. With these two in mind, it was pretty straightforward, especially in these days and age where information is everywhere. So with platforms like SyncSaver and MoneySmart, they really can save you a lot of time. You just need to do the filtering and that's it. All the cashback cards are there. Sometimes they will even list the top cards as the popular cards. Sometimes they are sponsored cards, but ultimately it helps to cut down the time you need to browse. Another tip here, whenever you find a card that interests you, always remember to go to the official website to verify further, especially the terms and conditions. Trust me on this. I know SyncSaver and MoneySmart have done the summary for you, but double confirming the information on the official sites themselves will help you to confirm the information you get is the most updated one. I mean, you don't want to misunderstand the benefits offered, right? When suddenly in the official site, it says that the benefit is going to be removed 1 month later. That will suck because you are going to be stuck with this card, all right? So these are what I started off with. UOB One Visa card, Standard Chartered Unlimited, which was then rebranded to Standard Chartered Simply Mastercard, HSBC Advanced Visa card, And then eventually I added the fourth card, which was the UOB Absolute Amex card. UOB 1 was the beast. When you spend a minimum of $2,000, it would give you 5% cashback. Now, the spending of $1,000 and $2,000 yield you the same 3.3% cashback. Bummer. Yeah. Next, Standard Chartered Unlimited card was my secondary card actually, because after hitting the $500 marks on my UOB one, I would use my SC Unlimited card to cover, and also it is a MasterCard. I like to have different services just in case, you know what I mean? And also SC Live Unlimited gave me about 1.5%, and you may ask, why HSBC Advanced card when it also gives you 1.5% cashback, right? Well, if you hit past a certain limit, you will get 2% cashback rate instead. So back then, I would think that if I spend a certain big amount, I would use this instead of the SC card. However, it all changed when UOB released the UOB Absolute Amex card. Those of you who used it, you all know that it gave 1.7% cashback on all things. Yes, you heard that right. Unlike now, in which they have nerfed it so badly, you know it was good when the bank had to nerf it. Alright, so anyway, this UOB Absolute card quickly took over the position of my secondary card. In fact, it almost became like an MVP card, leaving SC Unlimited card as the reserve and HSBC Advanced card as my other reserve, which also means it is just collecting dust at this point. So this is because I don't usually spend a lot, and remember, that was one of my factors as well. Or I would try to reduce my spending as much as I can, which translates to me not having a lot of big spendings. By the time I had to do a refresh as I review my lineup, UOB 1's cashback for a minimum spending of $2,000 had been nerfed to 3.3% by that point. However, this actually didn't matter. Spoilers alert, it ended with the top place again in the following lineup. So in the following lineup, I actually turned out to be more critical as I scrutinized one by one, like how much I had spent, how much I actually had spent on each card, what their pros and cons are, and whether they are worth a place in my wallet. Because at the same time, I was actually trying to consolidate as well, because I found that 4 cards is a bit too many for me. All of this while having the same 2 principles that I had initially set in choosing credit cards: high cashback rate and minimum spending requirement. However, one thing had changed here. I wasn't really crazy about high cashback rate anymore, as I know in order to choose one that fits my situation the most, sometimes high cashback rate doesn't make sense when it requires you to spend a minimum amount. I mean, after all, that's how, you know, they can trick you to spend more and then the company can earn more, right? Because cashback rate, to be honest, may not be as lucrative as those of the miles cards, because for the miles cards, it's very obvious that one-time spending can be quite big. Meanwhile, for cashback card, it can be very small. That's why all the rates are pretty small if you compare it to the miles cards, all right? And then I remember even a minimum amount of $600, I would disqualify the card from my options. So I had become that strict. At the same time, I really wanted to consolidate my cards. So like maybe 1 Visa card, 1 MasterCard, and 1 Amex card would be ideal, right? Because it's like 1, 1, and 1. 1 for main, 1 for secondary, and also 1 for reserve, like a backup. Alright, so in the following lineup, I actually ended up with the following. So first one, UOB 1, right? He definitely ended up as the top one. Still the top contender at this point, considering it gives you 3.3% as you hit $500. Well, it's not bad, even though it pays you quarterly. But the cashback you can get per quarter can be as high as about $75. And on top of that, with all the, if you spend on their partners, you can earn even more. Like maybe a total of $100 in cashbacks, right? That's pretty good. And then secondly, OCBC Infinity Cashback. Yeah, I actually stopped using UOB Absolute after the nerf because it just didn't fit in my spending pattern at the time anymore. And why I chose OCBC Infinity was because it gave 1.6%. Probably the next closest rate I could find other than the 1.7% cashback rate from UOB Absolute card. And it is a MasterCard. Third one, this card has to replace my Amex card because I no longer use UOB Absolute card at this point. So I picked Amex through cashback. Now, hear me out. I've heard about this card a long time ago. Especially when someone I know told me how he only had one card, and that is Amex True Cashback. And he just used it for anything, like literally anything. So of course, I went on to check the TNCs, and yeah, it probably has the fewest execution list I have ever seen. It was even better back then when you could use the card to top up your Grab wallet until it excluded it. Anyway, this easily became the Amex replacement card, considering it is the next best Amex cashback card I could find, and it is directly from Amex. So it no longer goes through other banks like UOB, you know what I mean? So in that way, it felt better, and it felt like it's more genuine in a sense. I mean, if you know, you know. Eventually though, I changed the order in which UOB one still remain as my main card, because you gotta spend that $500 minimum, you know what I mean, in order to get the cashback. And then the secondary card became the Amex True Cashback card. So basically my UOB one is still the main card that I used to spend most of stuff on it, and then the Amex True Cashback card became the secondary card. So as long as if I've hit $500 mark, I'll just switch to Amex True Cashback card all the way. So all the subscriptions and the bills can be paid using Amex True Cashback card. This is because the OCBC Infinity card actually had a long list of exclusions, MasterCard being a MasterCard just like Visa card. So they do have quite a long list of exclusions that made it less usable if you compare to Amex True Cashback. And as such, a 0.1% compromise didn't matter to me. Additionally, where Amex card cannot be used, I would actually use the OCBC Infinity card back instead, because unlike now, back then, there were not a lot of merchants that actually accept Amex. I actually had to keep asking them whether they actually accept Amex card. Unlike today, you just tell a person that, I just want to do a PayWave, and then you just tap it, and then that's it. Unless it didn't go through, and then the merchant will actually tell you. But it's very rare in my experience these days. So that lineup was what I thought the best lineup. No loopholes. To be frank, I genuinely thought so. Until one day, I missed my UOB 1 limit again. So meaning I missed the 500 mark again. Okay, so what does it mean? I didn't meet the minimum spending requirement again. Yes, you heard that right, again. And this was what prompted me to do the third revamp at that time. As I went through my expenses, there were several times when I spent less than $500, and when you missed a month, that means you won't get cashbacks for 3 months. Now that sucks, because they only pay the cashback quarterly. Smart, huh? I guess that's how they get you, I guess. Anyway, I figured that this is not worth it, because when I look back at all my expenses, the fact that I missed $500 minimum spending requirement several times is just not worth it. Because if let's say I miss one month, that's like times 3, and then you multiply that by the number of times you missed, and yeah, you pretty much miss a lot of cashback by that point. So this is where I decided to get cards with low minimum spending or no minimum spending at all. Despite the cashback rate may not be as high, because that's just the opportunity cost over there, because it's very impossible for them to give you high cashback rate with no minimum spending on it. Come on, there must be a catch somewhere. However, $500 minimum spending is the lowest I can find, and with no minimum spending, the cashback rate is just not that high usually, just like I said earlier. That's just how it works. Alright, that's just how it works. After much deliberation, re-evaluating my spending categories and future-proofing, I came out with this, which to be honest may not be the best, but it works until now, considering I continuously aim to spend less. I mean, even in this 2025, alright? So the first one is POSB Everyday Card. It has a minimum spending of $800 to hit the higher cashback rate, while its normal cashback rate is just 0.3%. So why did I get it? Well, if you spend at Sheng Siong a lot, this is worth considering, as it has 5% cashback on that without any minimum. Great, huh? And who knows, on the month that you think you can spend a minimum of $800, this card can be quite amazing considering its benefits here. Just look at this. Some of it can go as high as 10%, 5%. So yeah, but of course, in order to use it, it's best if you try to plan in the beginning of the month, so that you'll be like, oh, in case you know that you actually spend $800, you're gonna spend $800 in this month, then you just use POSB Everyday Card all the way. Otherwise, if you think you cannot hit $800 per month, you just use another card. Which brings me to the second one, which is Amex True Cashback card. Yes, this card has become the dear card to me. So I see that this card is gonna remain in the lineup for quite a long time, even though it is 1.5%. It doesn't matter because you can spend it on almost anything. So even though POSB Everyday Card seems like the main, actually Amex True Cashback is like the main card here. But it's more of like maybe I use them interchangeably. Yeah. But in terms of the frequency, maybe Amex True Cashback card is more, considering the fact that I may not hit $800. I don't know, most of the time maybe. But I would still like the POSB Everyday Card because it can pay the town council fee through AXS, which is great by the way because 0.3% is better than nothing, right? Now third, OCBC Infinity Card. Yes, it made back into the lineup. I almost got rid of this card to be frank, but I decided to keep it considering it is still a good reserve card, giving 1.6%. Nothing new here, just a reserve with the same reasoning as the previous one where Amex card cannot be used. I may drop back to use this card instead, considering it gives 1.6%, which is better than 0.3% provided by the POSB Everyday Card. Alright, fourth. Yes, this time I have introduced back to the fourth card, even though in the very original lineup, I thought that having 4 cards were too many. But in this case, I had to reintroduce the fourth card because it deals with something else. So because of that, let me give you a hint. It is more of like a passive card actually. So why is that so? Looking at my spending, we have covered much of the important spending over here, like utilities, which can be covered by the Amex card, town council fee, which can be covered by the POSB Everyday Card, and other stuff can be covered by pretty much these 2 cards, right? Well, better something than nothing, but what about Wi-Fi bill and my phone bill then? Fortunately, I use the same brand for these 2, and hence I decided to use Singtel UOB card. Now, this card, I've not seen anybody mention it before. I felt that this is probably the most underrated card. But if let's say your whole family is using Singtel based services, this card can be not bad if you're looking for some sort of cashback on the bills. Alright, just look at this table. Okay, so with this card, I can also automate the charge process with this card, and they have the benefit on the bill payment cashback, just like what I show you on the table, as long as you charge your bills, both Wi-Fi and phone bills on this card. And they do annual fee waiver automatically, well, as per what mentioned in this card, okay? However, looking at its benefit, the total couldn't reach the next tier here, at least for my case over here. So I will only be getting $1, even though I've totaled up my Wi-Fi bill and my phone bill. So because of that, I've decided to just charge my Wi-Fi bill on this card for now, while charging my phone bill to my Amex card, because that way I can get a higher cashback on my Amex card while retaining the cashback on the Singtel UOB card. Now you can say that, well, that means that you'll be losing out on some of the cashback because you're only getting $1 instead of like the 1% from Amex card. Yes, I'm aware of that, but it's more of like for the long term, because maybe next time I may just charge everything else under this card. So I'm still kind of testing it, and I don't mind losing a few dollars for the year because of this. And yeah, I mean, it's still an automation stuff. I don't really mind about it. And again, it fits my situation. That's the most important part. Okay, so for this lineup though, I have this minor wish in which I want to own cards from the 3 banks in Singapore on top of Amex, if you noticed. Alright, so yes, they are DBS, UOB, and OCBC. So I don't know why, but I feel more comfortable dealing with the banks that you know are the best, and you get direct service from them, and hence the Amex card as well. So yeah, this is just the new minor thing that I kind of introduced into this lineup. That's why these are the cards that I chose. So yes, after much calculation, I figured I'll be fine with the amount of cashback differences with Singtel UOB cashback card. So yeah, I got this card instead for my last one. Now, it is a passive one because its literal use is just to automate the Wi-Fi bill payment. That's it. I don't even bring the card out. And I've set the automated payment on my Singtel account. So that means all I need to do is just to check my UOB app. So to wrap up, currently I'm only using 3 cards actively, more or less, minus Singtel UOB card, which are POSB Everyday Card, Amex True Cashback card, and OCBC card. Now, I want to bring in this one card that I considered so hard. It took me so long actually to decide between pure SB everyday card or this card, which is DBS U card. Honestly speaking, I was looking at this card for so long, but I just couldn't bring myself to get it. It has a good rate for rebate, to be honest. The downside is that it is in the form of U points. Now, personally, I use U app, but I don't really buy into the fact that the direct deduction is not from my credit card bills. So that's the downside for me, because personally, I prefer those that can deduct directly from your bills. For me, it's more of like hassle-free kind of thing. But for you, if you like it, feel free to use it, because to be honest, I think DBS U card is pretty good in terms of the rate. Alright, another card that is worth considering, which I actually had used before for a short while, is the City Cashback Plus card. To be honest, this card is pretty good. The app itself is pretty good. It is like an all-in-one card actually, to be honest. But there were two things that made me stop using it. Not even hitting the 1 year mark. First one is that it is not the top 3 banks in Singapore, but it just didn't sit right with me after using it for a while. And secondly, their salesman will call you every so often, I believe every week or two. I remember there was this period of time where I got a call from them almost every day within a week. So yeah, I found it quite annoying, to be honest. However, this card ranks pretty high in my list and I would consider it again in the future. To be honest, maybe it's my top 4 card or top 5 cards. But yeah, City Cashback Plus card, to be honest, is a pretty good card. It's almost like Amex True Cashback in my opinion. Yeah, hence the all-in-one card that I said. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this video. It got pretty lengthy because I want to treat this as a record for myself as well, but I hope it can be helpful for you too. And if you like this video, do consider leaving a like and share this video with anybody that you know, as it will help this channel out tremendously. Thank you very much. And if you have anything you want me to talk about, do leave them in the comments below, as I actually do read them. Don't forget to drink up, stay hydrated, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.